Right, today I'd like to highlight a couple members of my cleanup crew that I especially am fond of here in my 65-gallon aquarium. Number one is my, Bicolor Blenny, flame-tail Blenny. He does really well. He basically grazes all day long, right alongside my Hepatus Tang here. The Bicolor Blenny gets generally about 4 inches long in the aquarium. They're really good for tanks up to 40, 50, 60 or so gallons. And he'll help to keep the hair algae down especially. Not quite as good as a lawnmower Blenny because he doesn't really get the girth that a lawnmower Blenny will get. But he will pick all day long. And a lot of times in a 65-gallon aquarium or less, you want to stay away from tangs. They just get a little too big. This Hepatus Tang will, at its maximum, if allowed for space and water conditions, will get up to a foot or so in length. That is just not practical for a 65-gallon aquarium. And really, I should consider a coal tang, or I should also consider some sort of bristle tooth tang. Coal tangs generally get about 7-ish inches in length, and then most bristle tooth tangs will get anywhere from 6 to 8 inches in length. So they will do okay for a smaller tank like this. But really, if I wanted to focus on the longevity factor, I would probably just stick with maybe a couple blennies, or maybe just employ some hermit crabs or other snails and stuff like that. I do have some Mexican turbo snails in there. I have, I think, an astria snail or whatever you call it. I had a really big, I'm talking baseball size Mexican turbo for the longest time. He ended up dying when I moved back in March 22, but he was a really good fish, and he did snail, and he did really good work. And man, he just mowed down the algae. This is again newly set up, so I'm starting to get the algae in, and I'm trying to combat that with extra water changes. Really, all in all, it's looking okay right now. This is about a 3-week setup here. I did move it. I probably killed off a lot of the nitrophile bacteria on the move, but it's coming back nicely. I probably stirred up a lot of phosphates as well with some die-off there. But all in all, my X2SR down beneath is working really well. And these guys, the Hepatus Tang and then the Blenny, are just trucking along. They're doing really well. And they work all day. They're what you call a utilitarian fish. And you want to employ a lot of utilitarian guys in your aquariums, especially when you're first starting out, to combat this algae that's going to take over, and it will take over. It's the natural part of setting up an aquarium. But the extra water changes, keeping your nitrates and phosphates down. Nitrates between 5 and 10 for me. I like to keep my phosphates around 0.04. Nowhere above 0.07. That's a little too much for me. But the coral coloration really does better with a touch of phosphates and some nitrates. Something about it, the coral get a little extra nutrition, but not too much nutrition with the little extra levels there. If you have 0 nitrates, 0 phosphates, you can get good coloration, but just enough of those levels will make the colors pop a little more. Too much, you'll get brown out, and your corals will get a little more brown than appropriately colored, which happens a lot of the times when you're not doing your water changes and your levels are going up. In order to help keep these levels in check, I did put a chaetomorpha ball down in the sump. It's working well. I'll show you that in a minute. But let me just zoom in on a couple of my problem areas I have here, and let me talk about the algae and what what's happening. So this here had extensive cyano. It was like a reddish coating algae that you get oftentimes as the first major bloom when you first set it up. That has subsided, and now I'm having a little bit more hair algae down here, you can see. And this is all once established live rock, so it's a lot, the coloration is a little different than it would if it would be like a brand new live rock that would mostly be this color. I broke this rock in half to try to, make it fit better in this tank, and you're going to have a lot of this color rock with the hair algae on it that's going to be really unsightly unless you get not orange, but purple rock is your base rock when you're first setting up. Also, this rock here historically was algae-fied over the past year because of where it was in the sump. But recently it is being controlled, or has been controlled, by the Hepatus tang as well as my little Blenny. It's probably going to be overpowering for them, so I might have to do some manual hair algae removal in the future, or I could also buy a couple more snails. I think that I may just go with a couple turbo snails from the local fish store, or maybe even just a Mexican turbo or two. Those get pretty big and they do good work as well. They work at night mainly. So snails, you won't see them in the daytime a lot of times unless they're really hungry and starving. Mine, 90% of the time I see at night, and you can see their little track marks. I'll zoom in down here. This is how you know your snails will be working. So if you come out in the morning and your glass has little pit marks on it like that, that's just from the snails doing their work when you can't see them. Okay, and then this back corner of my tank, this is the back right corner when you're looking at the front. This is where you can see most of the cyano that I have going on right now. This is mainly because there's not good nutrient export for this area. A lot of the junk starts settling down here and it can't clean out. So either I'm going to have to come and manually sweep this out with a little tube, or I'm going to have to rearrange this so there's even flow back here to try to help move this stuff out. Not much is going to eat the cyanobacteria, when you get this outbreak in your tank. You're just going to have to either manually remove it or do extra water changes. And you can see where the corals kind of are just growing around it. I've brushed these off a couple of times, but you can still see this. This is a problem area here that I'm going to have to deal with in the near future with extra water changes, or just to suck it out, or not much is going to eat that, so that's what I'm going to have to do about that. Real quick, this is my chaetomorpha ball. It has doubled in size since I got it the other day. It's hard to appreciate with the big light in the way, but it is moving quite well in the sump, and it is doing its job. If it's doubling, if it's growing, then I'm giving it what it needs, which is nitrates and phosphates, and it will continue to suck them up. I'm going to take half of it out when it gets too big, and then it'll just continue the process over and over again. I'm also one step closer to setting up my dosing. I got this part hooked up. Now all I need to do is calibrate both of these and start dosing them in the tank. That way my levels will be set with the calcium and the alkalinity, then I'll be pretty much good to go after this to just do the updates of the main display. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, leave me a comment, and I will try to get back to all those comments if I see them. Otherwise, let me know what you guys would like to see in the future as well. I'd like to do some more updates, especially if y'all are wanting specific content. Since I've been in the reefing scene for a while now, I do have a lot of information to offer. So like, comment, subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.